so hard to be a guest speaker after a week of momentous national events. So I'm grateful for Claire for speaking to it and the other woman. Thank you. We, the member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person. That is, if we're comfortable with their appearance. Our first principle, the core of our values, theoretically. But do we truly affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person? Or do we pick and choose among those that we approve of or are comfortable with? I'd like to share some things I've overheard in my life or been told directly in my church, in my childhood home, and in other situations. I was at a contra dance at church last night, and a man kept asking me to dance. He had 2 left feet, crooked teeth, and unusual accent. All the women were avoiding him. You have such a pretty face. It's a shame to hide it behind all that fat. I tell you what, if you lose 50 pounds, I'll take you to Boston and buy you a new wardrobe. She's only 24. What kind of life experience could she have? She's way too young to be a minister. Oh, what a cute little fella. He's going to grow up to be big and strong, just like his daddy. We need more members, but of course we can't have just anybody. The first time she came to the house, I noticed she was wearing rubber thongs, and I thought, how unprofessional. Dyke, Leslie, come on, baby. I can show you a good time. Then you'll know what a real man is. Look at them. Pierced everything, spiked leather collar, and he's wearing nail polish. Why do all the weird ones have to come to our church? Remember now, Jews only want your money. Don't play with those colored girls, honey. They're dirty. Japs, I don't care how smart they are. They bombed Pearl Harbor, and for that I'll never forgive them. I understand she's done great work with people in need. But her clothes, her hair, her weight, won't she turn people off just by walking in the room? Is everyone really welcome at the table? Or are there little voices inside of us that stop us from embracing everyone and accepting them into our midst? What prejudices hold us back from affirming and promoting the inherent worth and dignity of every person? Our society is full of prejudice, and it's ingrained in us from the earliest stage. We make assumptions about people, often solely on their appearance, and we are often quite wrong. So I'd like to share a story with you, one of those big life-changing experiences for me. So, take you back, 1971, I was a senior in high school. We had to do a special project for a psychology class, and I had an idea. I gathered up my supplies and drove 45 minutes to visit a friend at the nearest college, the University of Vermont, a big school. I went to the library, an English textbook of my friend's in tow. For 5 or 10-minute blocks of time, I went around the library and sat at different tables where students were studying. I opened my book and read, and then after a few minutes moved on. I was watching for my table mates' reactions to my presence. The first time I went to the library, I went as me, which at that time, like many of my generation, meant I had long straight hair, blonde in those days. I wore jeans and a t-shirt, sandals, simple yet clean and presentable, just me. I smiled at my table mates as I sat and kept to myself as I studied. Nobody paid me any attention. A few folks nodded back as I sat and smiled. Most simply just ignored me, table after table, throughout 4 stories of the library. The next time I went to the library, I took on a new persona. Still me, of course, but I changed my appearance. This time I went with greasy hair, ripped overalls, and a t-shirt, barefoot, and a while since I had bathed. Fragrant and slovenly. Same textbook, same game plan, while wandering around the library. Approach a nearly full table of students, sit down and smile, open my book and read. At every table, everyone got up and left. No one acknowledged my presence, not a nod or even a disgusted look. People just got up and left. Okay, maybe you can see where this is going. The third and last time I went to the library, I assumed the prep girl persona. Makeup, hair done up in a bun, nice white blouse and plaid skirt, stockings, heels, perfume, discreet jewelry, clean and neat. My mother loved it. Okay. I walked around, sat and smiled, opened book and read. At every table I was acknowledged by someone. Smiles, nods, in some cases light conversation. Oh, I'm taking that class too. That sort of thing. 2 requests for a date. I was stunned. I was still me each time, whatever my appearance, yet I was ignored, avoided, or acknowledged simply because of my clothing, my appearance. What depths are we missing in people when we don't move beyond the surface label? Woman, man, gay, straight, old, young, white, black, pagan, Christian, rich, poor, waitress, lawyer. What assumptions do we conjure up in our minds when we meet someone or see someone on the street? We see a supersized woman and what goes through our minds? She should lose some weight. I feel sorry for her. At least I'm not that bad. What a beautiful woman. We see a carload of young men of color and what happens? Automatic internal fear? I wonder what they're up to. What are they doing in my neighborhood? Do I look vulnerable? We pass by a homeless person who calls out, "Spare any change?" We feel sorry. We offer thanks we have a roof over our heads. We toss some quarters into their cup. What if we see the same person 2 years running, sitting in the same spot every day? When is she gonna get a life? I wonder how much she makes sitting here every day. What kind of life could she possibly have? Would I ever sit down and actually ask her? So I'd like to go back to the statements that I made at the beginning and share the rest of the story. I was at a contra dance at church last night, and a man kept asking me to dance. He had 2 left feet, crooked teeth, and an unusual accent. All the women were avoiding him. When this woman continued her story, she went on to tell me that a group of people from the dance went out for coffee afterwards, and the man was in the group. The women continued to be uncomfortable until people finally settled down and started talking. It seems that this fellow had a PhD in comparative religions, taught at a local university, and was absolutely fascinating. By the end of the evening, my friend had asked him out on a date. "You have such a pretty face. It's a shame to hide it behind all that fat. I tell you what, if you lose 50 pounds, I'll take you to Boston and buy you a new wardrobe." This came from my mother in my 20s. But to me, a woman who had spent most of my adolescent and adult life up to that point dieting to no avail, it was a pretty devastating comment. My own mother. I was clearly not accepted for who I was, and again, I turned to food for comfort. After I gained another 40 pounds, she stopped offering me a new wardrobe. She's only 24. What kind of life experience could she possibly have? She's way too young to be a minister. This was heard in the halls of my seminary, starting school for the ministry. Future Unitarian Universalist ministers working hard to confront our own issues, our prejudices, possible blocks to an effective ministry, yet ageism ran strong. Well, I'll tell you what this 24-year-old had to offer. She had an encyclopedic knowledge of the Hebrew Bible, having graduated with honors from Swarthmore with a major in religion. But more than that, she had a gift for worship and ritual, for active listening, and for wholehearted play. She became my best friend there. even though I was almost twice her age. She was the person I turned to help me through the rough spots, as I still do today. Oh, what a cute little fella. He's going to grow up to be big and strong, just like his daddy. Well, this was said to me about our daughter Dana. Even cute little bald-headed babies have assumptions made about them. Even dressed in pink, strangers in the supermarket assumed she was a boy. And strong like her daddy? No kidding, stronger. She's 31 now. She's a contra dancer, yoga practitioner, long-distance hiker, snowboarder. I could go on and on. A beautiful young woman. Way stronger than her daddy. We need more members, but of course we can't have just anybody. I'm not proud to say that this was heard at a church I served while we were discussing growth. Perhaps the speaker was bold to speak up and say what many people think but dare not express. It's often best to get our fears out into the open and face them. I find many UUs assume that potential UUs must have a high IQ and a firm intellect, never mind a substantial income. But I think we would do well to look to our universalist forebears, who understood that the saving grace of their message was for everybody. The first time she came to the house, I noticed she was wearing rubber thongs, and I thought how unprofessional. Well, that was me. Still can't dress up. Okay. In my days as a hospice nurse in California, I embraced the California free and easy lifestyle. Fortunately, my skill at nursing overcame my fears, and the woman went on with her evaluation of hospice care to say how wonderful it had been as she cared for her husband who was dying rapidly and painfully from throat cancer. Dyke, Leslie, come on, baby, I can show you a good time. You'll know what a real man is. The man was menacing, and he was holding a 2x4. He was outside the local gay bar, which also held a first-class restaurant where my friend and I had gone for dinner. Two women walking out of a known gay bar. We were a target, whether or not we were lesbians, whether or not we were a couple. We ran straight to the nearest police station and reported our potential assailant. Look at them, pierced everything, spiked leather collar, and he's wearing nail polish. Why do all the weirdos come to our church? Yes, this comment too came from a UU at a congregation I served. I cringed when I heard it. And I watched as this young couple embraced our faith, embraced our church. They came every Sunday. They pledged 10% of their very low income to the church. He developed the sound system and the website, handled all the computer problems. She chaired the RE committee, finally sat on the board. Their 3 kids considered the church to be their home. And the parents still remained pierced, spiked, and polished. Remember now, Jews only want your money. Don't play with those colored girls, honey, they're dirty. Japs, I don't care how smart they are. They bombed Pearl Harbor, and for that I'll never forgive them. This was all heard in my childhood home. Growing up in Vermont, the whitest state in the nation, meant automatic prejudice simply out of fear of the unknown. The first family of color moved to my town in 1970. If the man hadn't been a high school teacher, they probably would have been run out of town. My parents never had an opportunity to face their assumptions about others. The only others we had in our community were the Catholic French Canadians. Jewish people didn't even exist except in mythology and stereotype. I met those dirty colored girls when I was with my family on a trip. We were staying at the same hotel in Arizona, and the girls and I were swinging at the playground when my mother called me back to the room. I didn't understand. They didn't look dirty to me, and I was having fun. But it was obvious that my parents were quite upset, so I didn't argue, and I stayed in the room. And how was I to know that the Japanese, as well as other Asian cultures, holds a rich source of faith traditions, as well as ordinary people like my family who only wanted to live in peace? The bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki were portrayed as heroic moments for my country, and no respect or honor for the country that was devastated. Interesting, later in my father's business career, he spent several weeks a year in Japan and embraced the Japanese culture and her people. It's amazing what a little first-hand education can do for even racist Vermonters. I understand she's done great work with people in need, but her clothes, her hair, her weight, won't she turn people off and offend them just by walking in the room? This was heard at a Unitarian Universalist congregational meeting, voting on whether or not to ordain a longtime member who had gone to seminary, passed successfully through the Ministerial Fellowship Committee, and was asking to be ordained by her home church. Simple, right? Apparently not, for this person was transgender, and the negative comments clearly reflected people's discomfort with this area that they did not fully understand. A discomfort with her appearance alone, not her skill at pastoral care, preaching, or teaching. Time to breathe. Why is this so hard? It seems just when we work on our prejudices and in some assumptions in one area, it's time to move to another one. Sexism, ageism, racism, heterosexism, classism, sizeism, genderism, the list goes on and on and on. Wouldn't it be easier if everyone was just like me? Really? No? Okay. We live in a world blessed with difference, and like a lush and vibrant flower garden, we each add our beauty to the whole. How boring it would be if we were all marigolds or zinnias or roses. Our differences add depth and richness to the landscape of our lives. We have so much to learn from each other. Through our gifts and the telling of our life stories, the simple perspective of a childhood in a different place. Inside, in here, lies our wholeness as people. If we do not take the time to look inside each other, our lives will be less rich. If we make assumptions about another based on appearance only, we might miss out on an opportunity to know someone heart to heart. Like Jesus, who reminded us to love our neighbors as ourselves and to cast the first stone only if we were without sin, we can welcome everyone to the table. In fact, I believe our faith calls us to do just that, to put aside our assumptions and our prejudices and to reach out for each other. Let us make a place for everyone here at our table of Unitarian Universalism. Let us create the world we want to see. Let us bring wholeness and joy and conflict and trust and beauty here to the table. And let us truly affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person. Amen. Please join in singing our final hymn, number 121, We'll Build a